What is a best alternative for project founders to build a great allow list without Discord vibing / grinding?
Yes, we had a few people.
The other two questions are just the same basic thing.
Basically the same thing.
You're going to be a lot better at answering this because like once Whitelist started becoming a thing, I just tapped out. I've read on Twitter that people are super sick of it and all that.
Yeah.
But I never did any of the Discord crazy grinding that people got into for it. And I never released a project like yours that would have given me insight from that perspective. So go ahead.
Yeah. I mean, I never did the grinding. Like I was basically 1 foot out the door when it was already becoming mainstream, 1 foot out the door from flipping at least. Basically, projects discovered that, gas was crazy. People hated gas wars. How can we avoid that? Oh, we'll just whitelist a bunch of people and they can mint and we'll give them like a 24-hour window. So whenever gas is low without having to compete with one another. And then what ended up happening was, and that still is a pretty good solution for projects where there's insane demand and a limited supply. The problem was that every project decided, hey, let's do that. And for a while, people found these whitelist, these mint list spots valuable. And so people were climbing over one another to get on them, and then they'd get on them and they'd mint because every project that minted out would go up in value and it was great. But then the market turned a little bit and it started being the case where not every project minted out and started flying on secondary. So people would still, try and get these spots. And at the same time, projects were giving them out more and more freely. And then it ended up in this situation where there was 5,000 people on the list to mint, but then everyone was like waiting and seeing and like, oh, I'll only mint if it looks like it's going to sell out. Then otherwise, I don't want to be the first one to mint. I don't want to be the first 100 because then if only 200 people mint out of 10K, that's a bad investment. So it ended up being in this space where the mint list spots were not that valuable. And then we sort of came full circle again when I guess demand picked up, especially in January, and projects started getting a ton more hype. And then it became like everyone wanted to get on these mint list spots. And that's sort of kind of where we are now, still for hyped projects. And people started we became full circle even more, where projects said, hey, let's incentivize people on the mint list to mint by making it slightly cheaper than the public sale. So there's that, which brings us back to the whole FOMO ramp bonding curve thing that began this whole thing off with Hashmask last year, which people ended up hating. But I think it's a pretty nice middle ground to give people on the mint list a slight discount and incentive to mint, perhaps. Anyway, the ways people got onto the mint list got more and more elaborate and difficult over time. It used to be
I see good memes on Twitter, like the one where it's like a custom Mario level where it's like the things are spinning.
Fire.
Yeah. People going like, this is me trying to get on the
Basically, projects were like, all right, we don't want to give it to just anybody because then bots and flippers will get it. We want to give it to people who show that they're generally interested. And so it was like, well, how about we give it to the people who are most active in the Discord? You can very quickly see based on the amount of messages people have posted. And it's great to do that if it's like a retroactive thing. You've had the Discord open for 2 months, you reward the people who've been organically active. But when you say, all right, we're going to give a mint list to anyone who grinds to level 6, which requires, 500 messages, then people are just sitting there spamming GM, hello, etc., fake conversations all day. No one's having fun. And then they were like, well, how about we incentivize, make it so that if people invite other people to the Discord, then because we can track how many people everyone invites. All right, if you invite 5 people, you're guaranteed a spot. And then it became, if you invite 5 people, you go into a raffle to win a spot. And it was like, all right, we'll inflate our Discord numbers, but then people started botting that. And it's just, no one really loves it. And it ends up not really working out well for the projects either, because they get a bunch of people who are on the mint list who are just there to grind these mint list spots and then wait and see. So in terms of, all right, to answer the question, what are the best alternatives to build a great allow list without Discord vibing and grinding? The first thing I would say is consider whether you even need a mint list in the first place. If you have that much, only really consider it once you have, I think, quite a bit of demand. Then start figuring out how to give out these spots and realize that what you have is something of value. So again, retroactively reward people who found your project early, who were in your Discord, who were good community members. And it takes a bit of time and effort. It's not just anyone who grinds to level 5. Maybe you have to have a team member whose pretty much full job it is to like look out for people who are helpful, or maybe you deputize some community managers and get them to like, find people who have been helpful. And then you can do things like partner and collaborate with other NFT projects and exchange, if they're coming up with a launch soon and your community wants to be part of their project and their community wants to be part of yours, you can exchange some spots and stuff like that. But honestly, yeah.
I was thinking about the concept. Like, I remember when Botto launched and they gave the tokens freely to people who had been part of certain projects. And I thought, specifically with that project and it being an art project, them giving it to owners of art blocks was a smart way to make sure the people in your project are people that are already in the space and have shown an interest in something that is similar to what you have. So, excuse me again. What about the concept of, allowing minters from projects whose communities are specifically interested in, the same area that you are trying to build in? That seems like sort of a smart idea. I mean, again,
yes, some projects
you need
do
the
that.
demand, still need the demand. But if you have the demand and you're trying to figure out who do we let in, and like theoretically, hopefully, how do we make sure it's not just cynical flippers just in it for the money? You go, well, who is in the projects that have the community that are doing similar things to what I want to do?
Yeah, and that's basically what more projects are doing, and the good ones do it in a manner where so let's say you're launching a PFP project, you go, all right, we're going to go partner with Cool Cats and give 250 spots for the Cool Cats community, give out to their community. We'll go partner with the Littles, with the Bored Ape Yacht Club, with all these communities, and give out like 100 to 300 spots to each community.
What's the BitBoy one that he was saying was one of his top 5? we give some to that community.
Yeah, I can't even remember. Yeah, so it works well if the communities you partner with basically share a vision and align with yours well. What doesn't work well is when you're just giving out 100, 200 spots to anyone that will take them.
Yeah.
So I think the projects that work well are the ones where like they take time to partner with projects who have communities that they would generally like their members to be part of it. And then, you're always going to get some amount of people from every community who are flippers, but flippers are not evil. And I think projects having some quantity of flippers is helpful to, spur secondary market activity. And it's healthy to have some percentage of flippers. You just don't want the majority.
You can't have it all because then you don't have a community.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know what the ratio is, but yeah.
It is worth kind of going back to the very beginning of the answer, though, I think, where you're just going, like, the reason we ever started doing any of this, right, was to avoid gas wars. So you have to go, is there enough demand that there would even be one anyway? If there's not, you probably don't need one. And, is there another way to avoid the gas war? I mean, for instance, the way you launched ZenAcademy's token. Now, again, that's an ERC 1155, and it's different in terms of the supply and all of that. But that is another way that you don't need to make a allow list or a whitelist necessarily, but you can still avoid the gas war, which those were designed to circumvent. So, even with a profile picture project, like, again, we talked about this earlier, but like the 10K number is sort of arbitrary. And if you have the randomization actually happening during the minting process rather than, ahead of time and then picking which of those randomly assigned ones you get, you can probably just have a more open minting style that lasts whatever amount of time and then allow the actual demand to drive how much supply there is. And then also having, that happen means that there isn't going to be this insane rush that causes the gas war that people want to avoid, which means you would have needed the allow list. So you can just kind of have a more casual mint with maybe possibly not a set in stone ahead of time cap on the supply. And I feel like that's not really something we ever see as a profile picture project where they go, we don't know what the supply is going to be. We're going to leave it open for 3 days. And there
I would
might
love
be
to see more of that.
that would be an interesting thing, I think.
Yeah, and you can still do it with like ERC 1155s. You can just say we're going to sell mint passes for a week,
Right.
and then each mint pass at the end of a week, you just redeem it for a PFP, and maybe we end up with 220 people, and maybe we end up with 12,000, sort of depending on how demand goes. And people say, well, there's always the risk that not too many mint, but the project does not necessarily have to end there. If the success of your project is predicated on selling out 10K, you're in some senses setting yourself up for failure. Yeah, and I think you can many collections can succeed selling out like 500, and then having if that's 500 people who are really passionate about the project and the community and the art and stuff, you can always release a second collection, in a few weeks, in a few months, of just open it up again, and then whoever wants to join can join. And
there's a lot of possibilities if you are really building and you're really building something interesting. The initial mint is just the initial mint, and it's like, if you think about what almost any really successful project is now versus what it looked like on day 0 or day 1, there's a big difference there in a successful project.